Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. In today's episode, we're delving into one of Marvel's most captivating and powerful characters, Morgan le Fay. A sorceress whose magical prowess stretches across centuries, Morgan is as mysterious as she is dangerous. With ties to Arthurian legend, dark magic, and the infamous Darkhold, Morgan's influence reaches far and wide in the Marvel Universe. From her battles with the Avengers to her connections to Doctor Doom and Chthon, her story is one of power, betrayal, and manipulation. If you're a fan of magical lore or love the complex characters who walk the fine line between hero and villain, this video is a must-watch. And if you enjoy deep dives into Marvel's most intriguing characters, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay updated with all things Marvel. Now, let's get started. To truly understand the depth of Morgan le Fay's character, we need to explore her origins and the events that shaped her into one of Marvel's most enduring sorceresses. Morgan le Fay is one of Marvel's most enigmatic and enduring villains. First appearing in Black Knight issue 1, 1955, created by writer Stan Lee and artist Joe Manilli, Morgan's character was inspired by the legendary sorceress of Arthurian myth. However, her role in the Marvel Universe quickly became intertwined with darker forces, including her deep connections to the Darkhold, King Arthur, and supernatural realms. Morgan le Fay's journey begins in the ancient remnants of Atlantis, long before Camelot rose to prominence. After the great cataclysm that submerged Atlantis, a cluster of islands remained above the waves. The largest of these, Avalon, became home to a mystical Atlantean colony. Morgan's mother, Igraine, was a sea princess of Avalon, and Morgan was born as a half-fairy into this sacred lineage, with her father hailing from the mysterious and magical Sacred Clan. According to Avalon's customs, Morgan was taken to the House of Virgins in the crystal city of Ruta, a grand sun temple atop a volcanic island. Here, she was groomed to serve as Avalon's Sea Princess, a position of immense spiritual and mystical significance. Despite her duties, Morgan's yearning for love was suppressed by the traditions of Avalon, which bound its women in arranged unions with members of the Sacred Clan to amplify their magical potential. However, catastrophe loomed. Merlin, a young priest of Avalon, was warned by an elder of an impending volcanic eruption that would destroy the remaining islands of Atlantis. Entrusted with ancient scrolls and Igraine's safety, Merlin fled with Igraine and Morgan aboard a merchant ship. As great tidal waves engulfed Avalon, they set sail for the distant shores of Britain. Upon arriving in Britain, Merlin assumed the identity of Merlin and established a new mystical order centered around the construction of Stonehenge. To secure Igraine's future, he arranged her marriage to Gorwal, Duke of Tintagel, who adopted Morgan as his daughter. However, this union unraveled when Gorwal was killed by Uther Pendragon, who claimed Igraine as his queen. Their union produced Arthur, Morgan's half-brother and future king of Britain. As Morgan matured, her extraordinary talents drew Merlin's attention, and she became his apprentice on Arran Island. Her fairy bloodline granted her abilities in manipulating mystical energy, mind control, and performing feats like astral projection powers that would become central to her identity as a sorceress. Though their relationship grew complex, with Morgan attempting to intertwine her magical training with romantic aspirations, she ultimately failed to honor the vows demanded of her by Merlin. Her innate connection to the mystical world, strengthened by her early education under the guidance of druids and the sorceress Evil, led her to master the arcane arts. Driven by a lust for power and immortality, Morgan's rivalry with her half-brother, King Arthur, became legendary. Her ambitions to seize the throne were constantly in conflict with Arthur's reign. Morgan's formidable magical talents grew under the tutelage of Merlin, though their alliance was marked by betrayal. As Merlin aided Arthur in uniting Britain, Morgan secretly plotted against the kingdom, manipulating supernatural forces to achieve her goals. Her alliance with Mordred, Arthur's illegitimate son by Morgause, was pivotal in the eventual downfall of Camelot. Morgan's manipulation and magical influence amplified Mordred's treachery, concealing his schemes from Arthur until it was too late. Together, they waged war against Arthur, culminating in the Battle of Camlan, where Arthur and Mordred mortally wounded each other. After betraying Merlin and conspiring against Camelot, Morgan's power was seen as too great a threat. Merlin used a powerful enchantment to trap her within her castle, binding her with a spell that would kill her if she attempted to leave. To further ensure her confinement, a trio of knights bound her in iron chains, which resisted her fairy magic. Though these restraints were later undone by the Black Knight, Morgan's imprisonment forced her to develop mastery over astral projection, enabling her to extend her influence beyond her physical confines. Through this ability, she targeted figures like Jessica Drew, seeking to use their mystical connections to free herself and regain her full power. Morgan's connection to the Darkhold began during this time as well. The chaotic, destructive power of Chthon intrigued Morgan, and she set out to harness its magic. Her search for fragments of the Darkhold scrolls scattered throughout Britain eventually led to the creation of the tome as we know it today. Her dark rituals also established a mystical nexus at Wundagore Mountain, forever binding her to Cthulhu's corrupting influence. As Morgan's power grew, her former allies began to turn against her. One of her most trusted confidants, the sorcerer Magnus, betrayed her, stealing the Darkhold and hiding it in a fortified tower. This act of treachery left Morgan without her greatest source of power, cementing her hatred for humanity and setting her on a centuries-long quest to reclaim the tome. Eventually, Morgan's betrayals led to her banishment to Avalon, a mystical isle that provided the source of her immortality. While in exile, Morgan forged alliances with various fairy realms, ensuring that her presence would remain a powerful force throughout the centuries. Avalon's energies allowed her to survive through the ages, continuing her pursuit of magical dominance. Her resurgence began when Jason Struthers, a petty thief, attempted to rob the British Natural History Museum. While there, he came across the Morgan le Fay artifact Excalibur on display. The artifact's mystical powers transformed him into Excalibur, a knightly figure under Morgan's influence. Through this connection, Morgan projected her astral form into the modern world, while her physical form remained dormant. Slapper, now fully under Morgan's control, served as an extension of her will, showcasing her raw power to dominate even the weakest minds. His actions became a reflection of Morgan's desires, as she manipulated him to strike at her enemies and secure her foothold in the modern age. This complete subjugation of Struthers highlighted not only her magical prowess, but also her ability to exploit the vulnerable, bending them to her indomitable will. From her astral plane, Morgan targeted Jessica Drew, intending to use the hero's unique mystical energies to escape her dimensional prison and gain a foothold in the mortal realm. Morgan manipulated Jessica through illusions, mental domination, and dark rituals, testing her resolve. This confrontation introduced the recurring dynamic between the two, with Morgan's cunning and vast knowledge of dark magic clashing against Jessica's determination to resist. Morgan's schemes to escape intensified, as she drew on ancient rituals and artifacts, attempting to destabilize the barrier that confined her. Jessica became entangled in these manipulations, engaging in intense mental and physical battles against Morgan's minions and magical constructs. This period highlighted Morgan's resourcefulness and her ability to project influence across dimensions despite her imprisonment. Morgan le Fay's pursuit of power in the Darkhold took a decisive turn when she clashed with the sorcerer Magnus and his protege, Jessica Drew, also known as Spider-Woman. Manifesting on the astral plane, Morgan unleashed her two demon barbarians to assault the defenseless Magnus, who was bound and helpless. Though Spider-Woman managed to drive the demons away with her venom blasts, Morgan's ethereal form rendered her immune to physical attacks. Morgan's objective was clear. She sought the Darkhold, a tome of dark magic essential to her ambitions. When Spider-Woman professed ignorance of the Darkhold's location, Morgan used Magnus's life as leverage, compelling Jessica to search for the book. Confident in her control over the situation, Morgan assured Spider-Woman that her mentor would aid her quest. As Jessica embarked on her mission, Morgan's influence continued to loom. The search led Spider-Woman to Jack Russell, the unfortunate bearer of the werewolf curse. On the night of the full moon, Morgan's machinations indirectly caused a violent confrontation between Jessica and the transformed werewolf by night. Jack, overwhelmed by his bestial nature, attacked Jessica, knocking her unconscious before fleeing. Despite this setback, Spider-Woman recovered and subdued Jack with a concentrated venom blast. Unbeknownst to her, SHIELD agent Jerry Hunt, guided by Magnus's psychic command, was in pursuit. Jessica returned to Morgan le Fay's keep with the unconscious werewolf in tow, only for Jerry to arrive moments later. Meanwhile, Magnus confronted Morgan on the astral plane in a desperate bid to stop her. However, Morgan's power proved superior. She defeated Magnus by destroying his physical body, solidifying her dominance. As the conflict escalated, Spider-Woman and Jerry Hunt battled Morgan's forces. During the chaos, Jerry revealed that ever since their first encounter and the life-saving blood transfusion Jessica gave him, he had felt an inexplicable connection to her due to the changes in his genetic pattern. As the conflict escalated, Morgan le Fay unleashed a barrage of mystical energy blasts against Spider-Woman. Despite the intensity of Morgan's attacks, Spider-Woman appeared to be shielded by a protective spell, allowing her to withstand the assault. Jerry Hunt, caught in the chaos, struggled to make sense of the situation, while Morgan's relentless power threatened to overwhelm them both. Morgan, seeking to reclaim her physical form, used knowledge from the Darkhold to cast a time displacement spell on her body in the past. As Jerry struggled to protect Jessica, Morgan killed him, cementing her ruthless determination. Enraged, Spider-Woman unleashed a powerful venom blast, striking Morgan's physical form in the past and causing it to disintegrate. Although her body was destroyed, Morgan's essence survived on the astral plane. However, a vortex opened, pulling her astral form away, temporarily neutralizing her threat. Morgan's relentless pursuit of the Darkhold and her ruthless elimination of obstacles demonstrated her unwavering ambition and her ability to twist fate and people to her will. Despite her defeat, Morgan le Fay's influence persisted, looming ominously in Jessica Drew's life. Through cryptic warnings and manipulative schemes, Morgan referred to Jessica as the child of the Darkhold and alluded to an inevitable confrontation, promising that the day of reckoning was at hand. These chilling encounters reinforced Morgan's relentless pursuit of power and her role as a master manipulator operating from the shadows. Morgan's ties to Avalon and her origins as a mystical force were further explored, emphasizing her connection to ancient realms and her role in shaping mystical events across dimensions. Her ability to manipulate Jessica and other mystical entities, even while in prison, underscored her far-reaching influence. Morgan's cunning and manipulative nature extended beyond her clashes with Jessica Drew. Her next major scheme involved Dr. Doom, whom she manipulated into aiding her cause. Stranded in King Arthur's time due to his own time cube, Doom sought Morgan's magical expertise to return to the present. Morgan, however, could not leave her mystical castle due to Merlin's binding spell. As a result, she compelled Doom to lead her army of the dead against Camelot on her behalf, offering her assistance in exchange for a dark price: the death of King Arthur, fulfilling her long-standing vendetta against him. Morgan orchestrated this battle from within her castle, demonstrating her ability to manipulate even the most powerful individuals to serve her agenda. However, Iron Man intervened, complicating her plans. In a final act of cunning, Morgan used a shard of Excalibur and a freeing chant to escape into another dimension, eluding capture. This escape underscored Morgan's resourcefulness and her talent for shaping events to her advantage, even when restricted by magical constraints. Morgan's rivalry with Jessica Drew continues, with her escalating efforts to dominate Earth's mystical landscape. She deploys increasingly powerful spells and creatures, testing Jessica's limits as a hero. This highlights Morgan's adaptability and her strategic mind, as she adjusts her tactics to exploit Jessica's weaknesses. Her determination to break free from her dimensional prison remains a driving force, making her an increasingly dangerous foe. As Morgan's manipulation of mystical energies reaches new heights, she channels her power through ancient artifacts, creating disruptions in the natural order that threaten to spill into the mortal realm. During their confrontation, Morgan reveals that Jessica was born on Wundagore Mountain, a place steeped in dark magic, where she had been suspended in animation for 30 years. Morgan further explains that Chthon, the elder god of chaos, is bound to Jessica as intimately as the earth is to the sun, making Jessica a critical vessel in Morgan's designs to unleash Chthon's power upon the world. Empowered by this revelation and her growing understanding of mystical forces, Jessica confronts Morgan with newfound confidence. With the guidance of Magnus, who aids her from the astral plane, Jessica stands her ground against Morgan's relentless assault. Morgan, now desperate, unleashes her full arsenal of magical powers in a furious attempt to defeat Jessica and claim dominion over Earth. The intensity of their battle showcases the evolution of both women. Jessica, once uncertain of her abilities, now proves herself a formidable protector, while Morgan's hubris fuels her downfall. As the conflict reaches its peak, Spider-Woman lands a decisive blow, knocking Morgan out of the confines of her castle, and Merlin's ancient spell is invoked, a powerful incantation designed to eradicate Morgan's physical form. As Morgan screams in rage and disbelief, her body begins to disintegrate into ash, her dark essence unraveling before her eyes. Despite her physical destruction, her spirit lingers on the astral plane, ensuring that her threat is far from over. Morgan's defeat marks a temporary end to her immediate menace, but her lingering influence and connection to Chthon cast a long shadow over Jessica's future. This victory solidifies Spider-Woman's role as a defender against dark sorcery, and reinforces that, even against the most ancient and malevolent forces, her resilience and courage can prevail. However, Morgan's presence would not be easily erased. When Jessica's existence is mysteriously forgotten by the world, the subtle hand of Morgan le Fay is once again at play. Jessica's comatose body is discovered in a San Francisco hospital, where her closest allies begin to piece together the forgotten memories of her life. Her spirit, trapped on the astral plane due to Morgan's enchantments, remains tethered to this limbo. Manipulating ancient magic, Morgan ensures that Jessica cannot reunite with her physical form, a calculated move designed to erase a persistent adversary. Magnus, Jessica's sorcerer mentor, attempts to reverse Morgan's spell and guide Jessica's spirit back to her body. But Morgan, always vigilant and ruthless, strikes down Magnus on the astral plane. This leaves Jessica's spirit stranded between dimensions, unable to return to life. Through her deft manipulation of mystical energies and strategic strikes, Morgan demonstrates her mastery of both sorcery and psychological warfare. She doesn't merely confront her enemies directly, she dismantles their reality, ensuring they are trapped in a web of despair and confusion. Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch are already at the San Francisco hospital, standing vigil over Jessica Drew's comatose body. Recognizing the severity of the mystical threat, Scarlet Witch sends an urgent call to the Avengers, summoning them to aid in the effort. As the team assembles, they find Doctor Strange desperately working to reunite Jessica's astral form with her physical body. However, her spirit remains trapped between dimensions, held by a powerful enchantment. Sensing the immense, ancient power at work, Doctor Strange warns the heroes that their adversary is no ordinary foe. Morgan le Fay's presence dominates the astral plane as she reveals her malevolent handiwork. She flaunts her mastery of ancient sorcery, describing how she ensnared Jessica Drew's spirit, preventing it from reuniting with her body. The Avengers realize the depth of Morgan's cruelty. Her calculated and relentless magic traps Jessica in a liminal state between life and death. The oppressive energy of Morgan's spell underscores the gravity of her vengeance, showcasing a ruthless power that transcends physical limits and bends reality to her will. Morgan's astral form strikes with ruthless precision, unleashing waves of malevolent energy that batter Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, and the Avengers. The heroes struggle to withstand her relentless assaults as she weaves between dimensions, striking and withdrawing with chilling ease. In a climactic display of dominance, Morgan le Fay expands her form into a towering spectral giant on the astral plane, her malevolent presence looming with ancient fury. As she prepares to obliterate Jessica Drew's spirit, the hospital trembles under the strain of her dark power. Doctor Strange, wielding the Eye of Agamotto, imbues Jessica's astral form with renewed strength, urging her to follow the guiding light back to her body. Despite the overwhelming astral winds sapping her resolve, Magnus sacrifices the last of his magic to steady her path. His selfless act gives Jessica the final push needed to overcome Morgan's grip and return to her physical form. Sensing her bond with Jessica is severed, Morgan shrieks in fury, her spectral form dissolving. Doctor Strange then conjures a portal, allowing the heroes to return to Earth, battered but victorious. Though momentarily defeated, Morgan's shadow remains, a constant reminder that her mastery of sorcery and her quest for vengeance are far from over. Her presence resurfaces with sinister intent, entwining the fates of Jack Russell's sister, Lissa, and Tony Stark. Morgan, having failed to permanently possess Spider-Woman, turns her attention to Lissa, seeking to take over her body as a new vessel for her dark magic. At a Renaissance fair, Morgan seizes control of Lissa's body, using her as a puppet to unleash her malevolent power. This possession shatters the tranquility of the event, drawing Iron Man into the fray. As Morgan manipulates Lissa, she conjures illusions and freezes time, her sorcery challenging Stark's technological prowess. Jack Russell, transforming into the werewolf by night, fights to save his sister, his savage instincts barely kept in check. In a desperate clash of science, magic, and brute force, Iron Man and Jack confront Morgan's malevolent spirit. The battle reaches its climax when Jack's feral attack wounds Lissa's possessed form, breaking Morgan's hold and expelling her spirit. Though Morgan is once again driven back, the encounter underscores the ever-present threat she poses. Her ability to corrupt the innocent and manipulate modern heroes reveals the dangerous adaptability of her ancient powers. Morgan's defeat is fleeting, a dark promise that her vengeance, fueled by centuries of wrath, will inevitably return to haunt the Marvel Universe. Morgan's ambitions escalate further as she seeks to merge Avalon with the modern world. Using her dark sorcery, she attempts to bring Castle le Fay into the present, blending her medieval stronghold with contemporary reality. Her clashes with Dane Whitman, the Black Knight, reflect this desire for dominion. Morgan manipulates the legacy of the Ebony Blade and exploits Dane's connection to it, aiming to corrupt him and turn him into her pawn. In a climactic confrontation, Morgan uses Prester John's Eye of Evil to summon Valor, a monstrous being of immense destructive power. Valor overwhelms Black Knight and Doctor Strange, incapacitating them with his brute strength and Morgan's magical reinforcement. Morgan then ensnares the two heroes with the unbreakable crimson bands of Sidorak, leaving them helpless. Valkyrie arrives on her winged steed, Valinor, and attacks with her enchanted sword, Dragonfang. However, Dragonfang proves ineffective against the crimson bands. Realizing the need for greater power, Valkyrie retrieves the Ebony Blade and hurls it to Black Knight. Empowered by the Ebony Blade, Dane Whitman cuts through the crimson bands of Sidorak, freeing himself and Doctor Strange. With renewed determination, Dane wields the Ebony Blade to destroy the Eye of Evil, dispelling Morgan's enchantment and banishing Valor back to non-existence. The collapse of her dark scheme forces Morgan to retreat, her ambitions temporarily foiled. Yet, even in defeat, Morgan's relentless pursuit of power doesn't end here. She makes one final push to bring Castle le Fay into the present. The heroes follow Morgan to the dimension where her castle resides, leading to a decisive battle. Morgan manipulates the spirits of the past and binds Sir Percy, the original Black Knight, to her will. Sir Percy had previously merged his spirit with Dane Whitman's body, where his essence took control of the Black Knight's form, making their fates intertwined. As Dane Whitman, Doctor Strange, and Valkyrie confront Morgan's forces, she summons the Wicker Man, a towering, fiery construct infused with dark magic. The Wicker Man, serving as a powerful obstacle, wreaks havoc and overwhelms the heroes with its destructive force. In a desperate gamble to save Doctor Strange, Valkyrie, and their allies from the Wicker Man's fiery assault, Sir Percy bows to Morgan le Fay's will, pledging fealty to her in exchange for their lives. This act of submission severs Dane Whitman's control, allowing Sir Percy to regain his autonomy. Sir Percy then removes the Black Knight's helmet, which temporarily breaks the oath and grants Dane control of his own destiny again. Regaining control of his body, Dane Whitman witnesses Sir Percy's spirit merge once more with the ebony blade, granting the full power of the weapon. This allows Sir Percy to wield the blade's immense power, destroying the Wicker Man and shattering Morgan's stronghold, Castle le Fay. With her fortress collapsing and her schemes undone, Morgan is once again forced into retreat. Though defeated, her cunning and unrelenting desire for vengeance against the Black Knight remain a persistent threat. After her retreat from Castle le Fay, Morgan le Fay possesses the body of Vivian, a woman of science, blending modern intellect with her ancient sorcery. With Vivian's knowledge, Morgan devises a plan to raise Atlantis to reclaim the power of the lost Avalon. She plants detonators on an underwater volcano, triggering a massive eruption that shifts the tectonic plates beneath Atlantis, causing the city to rise 15 feet closer to the surface. This shift is only the beginning of her grander scheme to fully resurrect Avalon's magic. As Morgan's plan unfolds, Namor and his allies desperately try to stop her. In a critical confrontation, Sean Dolan, the squire of the Black Knight, hurls the ebony blade at Morgan, attempting to end her reign of terror. However, Triton of the Inhumans intervenes, saving Morgan because of her possession of Vivian's body. This selfless act, meant to preserve an innocent life, has dire consequences. In the aftermath, Morgan absorbs Triton's magnetic abilities, adding another layer of power to her already formidable arsenal. With her newfound magnetic powers, Morgan uses her sorcery to complete the task. She pulls Atlantis from the ocean depths to the surface, blending science, magic, and raw force to reshape the world to her design. Her goal is to establish a new Avalon, where her dominion over mystical energies and physical realms can be absolute. As the city emerges, chaos erupts, threatening the balance between land and sea and jeopardizing Namor's kingdom. Namor, Thor, the Fantastic Four, and other allies rally to combat Morgan's escalating threat. As Atlantis rises, Morgan gathers the scattered Darkholders to enact their dream of world domination. Seizing control of Thor through her sorcery, enhanced by a connection to his mother, Gaea Morgan turns the Thunder God against Namor. While Thor battles Namor, Morgan initiates a dark ritual outside the Sun Temple. The Inhumans, believing Avalon to be their ancestral home, confront Morgan, but she cleverly diffuses tensions by offering to share Avalon, earning their temporary allegiance. However, Morgan's plans begin to unravel. Thor is subdued by the Fantastic Four, severing his bond with her. Meanwhile, Arcadius plots his betrayal, but Morgan reveals she has already secured the city of Avalon. In a final power play, she reclaims the Ebony Blade with the aid of one of her Darkholders. As battle rages between the Inhumans, the Fantastic Four, and Thor, Morgan wields the Ebony Blade, intensifying her threat. Amidst the chaos, the heroes' combined efforts thwart Morgan's ambitions. Atlantis is ultimately returned to the ocean depths, but the scope of Morgan's power and cunning is made clear. Her relentless desire to merge Avalon and Atlantis, and her ability to manipulate both allies and enemies, demonstrates that her pursuit of domination remains an ever-present danger. Though Morgan's recent defeat had returned Atlantis to the ocean depths, her relentless ambition refused to wane. Drawing on her vast magical knowledge, she devised a new plan, one that would merge the arcane with a brutal subjugation of reality itself. Harnessing the power of the Norn Stones, Morgan sought to reshape the world in her own image. Recognizing that raw power alone was insufficient, she set her sights on manipulating the Scarlet Witch, whose chaos magic could serve as the perfect conduit to warp reality on an unprecedented scale. Infiltrating the minds of her adversaries, Morgan ensnared Wanda, exploiting her doubts and vulnerabilities to unleash a spell of immense power. This twisted reality reflected Morgan's vision of dominion, a medieval world steeped in mysticism, where she ruled as supreme monarch. To secure her position, she transformed the Avengers into her personal enforcers, the Queen's Vengeance, stripping them of their identities and twisting their loyalties to her cause. Heroes who had once defended Earth now served Morgan's dark will, enforcing her reign across this warped world. Yet, the spirit of defiance remained. The Avengers, though bound to Morgan's reality, began to sense the fractures in the illusion. Fragments of their true selves struggled against her enchantments, spurred on by their innate heroism and the unbreakable bonds of their team. Scarlet Witch, despite being the linchpin of Morgan's spell, wrestled with her corrupted mind. The faint echoes of her comrades' faith in her became a beacon, a catalyst for resistance against Morgan's control. In the climactic struggle, Wanda reclaimed her agency, breaking Morgan's hold and shattering the illusion. As the medieval reality unraveled, a beacon of hope emerged with the resurrection of Wonder Man, whose return helped bolster the strength and resolve of the Avengers. The restored heroes rallied, their unity and determination proving stronger than Morgan's sorcery. Empowered by their renewed ranks, the Avengers fought back with unwavering purpose. Morgan's dream of a medieval dominion crumbled, and her power was once again torn from her grasp. Though defeated, her cunning and mastery of manipulation remained a potent reminder that her threat was far from extinguished. Her obsession with bending reality and reclaiming Avalon's lost glory ensured that she would return, more dangerous and determined than ever. Despite her repeated defeats, Morgan le Fay's thirst for power and vengeance remained undiminished. Her schemes continued to intertwine with Avalon, always seeking ways to reclaim its mystical energies. This time, her gaze turned toward Britain's mystical legacy, particularly the mantle of Captain Britain, which was deeply connected to Avalon. Morgan captured Braddock, the former Captain Britain, intending to siphon his power and sever his link to Avalon. By destabilizing this connection, she sought to claim dominion over the realm's mystical energies for herself. The Avengers, including Captain America and the Scarlet Witch, became entangled in her latest plot. At the center of this conflict was Kelsey Lee, who had recently inherited the mantle of Captain Britain after Brian's capture. Morgan aimed to exploit Kelsey's inexperience and the fragile balance surrounding her new role. The battle led to the dimension of Otherworld, a nexus of Avalon's magical power. Here, Morgan's strength surged as she drew upon the realm's ambient energies, intending to destroy Braddock and permanently claim Avalon's magic. The fall of Brian would destabilize Britain's mystical defenses, granting Morgan the power she craved. Kelsey, struggling to embrace her new identity, faced Morgan in a decisive confrontation. Guided by Captain America's leadership and the Scarlet Witch's magic, she found the resolve to fight back. In a moment of courage and clarity, Kelsey struck down Morgan, severing her grip on Avalon's power and solidifying her place as the new Captain Britain. This victory marked Kelsey's transformation from a reluctant hero to a steadfast protector of Britain. Though Morgan's plot was thwarted, her cunning and resilience proved that her defeat was never final. Her obsession with Avalon's magic and her ability to exploit the legacies of others ensured that she remained a looming threat, ever ready to return with more dangerous schemes. This time, she turned to a familiar ally, Dr. Doom, whose visit to the past would spark a complex and intimate partnership. Morgan, ever the manipulator, sought knowledge from the future, asking Doom to bring back something valuable. Their encounter was not just one of mutual interest and power, but also of romantic chemistry, a bond that added depth to their collaboration. As their alliance deepened, Morgan shared with Doom her secrets of necromancy, teaching him how to control an army of the dead, a skill she had mastered long ago. This dark power, which she had once wielded to command her own undead forces, was now at Doom's disposal. Their relationship, though strategic in nature, was laced with shared ambition, as Morgan and Doom worked together, each seeing the other as a means to greater power. Yet, Morgan never lost sight of her own goals, using their connection to further her own mystic schemes, ensuring that even in this partnership, she remained the one pulling the strings. Morgan le Fay's involvement in the quest for the cornerstone of creation further highlights her complex character. While she often pursues her own ambitions, she also demonstrates a willingness to aid others when it aligns with her understanding of balance and order in the mystical world. Her interactions with Ian McNee, providing him with the Ebony Rose, exemplify her multifaceted nature, capable of both manipulation and cooperation, depending on her goals. Yet while Morgan is capable of guiding others toward mystical balance, her dealings with figures like Dr. Doom often expose the dangerous price of such alliances. Morgan le Fay plays a crucial role in Dr. Doom's quest for greater power. After a failed attack on King Arthur, Morgan fled with a shard of Excalibur, seeking refuge in Mephisto's realm. In exchange for sanctuary, she offered Mephisto the shard, binding herself to his domain. Dr. Doom, in his relentless pursuit of power, struck a bargain with Mephisto to obtain both the shard and Morgan's soul. As part of this pact with the cunning Mephisto, Doom captured Morgan and imprisoned her within a mystic cage. When Doom approaches her, he reminds her of their previous pact and presents the Shard of Excalibur, seeking her assistance in performing a ritual that only someone with Pendragon blood can execute. Morgan agrees, conducting the ritual over the shard, which bonds with Doom's armor, transforming it into a black enchanted suit that significantly enhances his abilities, making him a formidable adversary. However, as is often the case with Doom's treacherous nature, betrayal follows cooperation. Once the ritual is complete, Doom then casts her back into the time of King Arthur, trapping her in a spell-sealed chamber. Without the shard of Excalibur to draw power from, Morgan is rendered helpless and imprisoned once more. This act of betrayal marks yet another instance where Doom's ruthless pursuit of power overcomes any allegiance. Even with all her cunning and magical prowess, Morgan finds herself outmaneuvered, her thirst for power and control momentarily eclipsed by Doom's strategic foresight. Yet, Morgan's resilience and mastery of the dark arts ensure that such defeats are rarely the end of her story. Though Doom's betrayal had once again consigned Morgan le Fay to the past, her relentless will and command over dark sorcery would not allow her to remain defeated. Drawing upon her mastery of time manipulation and necromancy, Morgan found a way to reach across the centuries. Fixating her vengeance on Doom, she launched a new assault from the time of King Arthur, seeking to reclaim her power and punish his treachery. Morgan le Fay's ambition and mastery of dark magic remained as relentless as ever. Driven by a thirst for vengeance, she devised a plan that involved manipulating time itself. Using her vast mystical knowledge, she traveled back to Latveria during Victor von Doom's childhood, intending to eliminate him before he could rise to power. However, at the pivotal moment, she chose not to strike, deciding that Doom's downfall should come with the full knowledge that it was Morgan le Fay who orchestrated his end. Returning to the present, Morgan unleashed an army of demonic warriors to besiege Latveria, determined to crush Doom at the height of his power. In a display of her immense power, Morgan went toe-to-toe with Doom, matching his sorcery and technology with her ancient dark magic. Her spells overwhelmed even Doom's formidable defenses, and she ultimately bested him, proving her superiority as a mystic adversary. Just as she prepared to deliver the final blow and seal Doom's fate, the Dark Avengers, led by Norman Osborn, arrived to intervene. Viewing this as an opportunity to solidify his control and eliminate a potential threat, Osborn deployed the Dark Avengers to aid Doom in defending his kingdom. Sentry, determined to end the Sorceress's reign of terror, charged at Morgan with all his might. In a swift and brutal strike, he decapitated her, his raw power overwhelming even her formidable defenses. But his victory was fleeting. Using her mastery of time, Morgan resurrected herself instantly, her dark magic bending reality to her will. Despite Sentry's near unmatched strength, Morgan retaliated with a surge of dark energy, obliterating him completely. Her command over time and sorcery made her an even greater threat than the Avengers had ever anticipated. The Avengers were forced into a retreat as they struggled to deal with her growing power. Her assault intensified as she gained control over their minds. The Venom symbiote, now an even greater weapon under her influence, became a lethal instrument against the Avengers. In one of her most brutal moves, Morgan used Venom to turn Spider-Man, Matt Gargan, against his own teammates, forcing him to bite off the head of Ares. The god of war fell, decapitated by his own ally. It was a shocking display of control and power, neutralizing one of the Avengers' most powerful combatants in an instant. Even as the Avengers regrouped, Morgan's relentless onslaught continued. Each resurrection and each battle only made her more determined to break them. She was the embodiment of vengeance, growing more ruthless and more strategic with every attack. Time was her weapon, and the Dark Avengers could do little to stop her. The Dark Avengers struggled to regroup after Ares was petrified by Morgan's dark sorcery. Hawkeye, Bullseye, unleashed a volley of 5 precise strikes, each hitting a vital point on Morgan's body, momentarily halting her advance. But with a surge of dark magic, she returned more furious and relentless than ever. Dr. Doom lay paralyzed, his armor frozen by Morgan's spells. As data on Morgan le Fay flooded into Iron Patriot systems, Osborn realized their only chance was to interface with Doom's tech servers. Hoisting Doom into his arms, he surged forward and plunged headfirst into the time cube, vanishing from the battlefield. Her dark magic was too powerful, her control too complete, but Morgan's fate was far from sealed. Doom and Osborn, seeing the rise of this terrifying force, traveled back to 690 AD to deal with her once and for all. There, Doom cast an incantation that sent Morgan back in time, where prehistoric beasts and primitive dangers awaited her. Cast into the distant past of 1 million BC, Morgan's dark ambitions were thwarted once again, but her story, as ever, was far from over. After her downfall against Dr. Doom and the Dark Avengers, Morgan le Fay's indomitable spirit and mastery of dark magic enabled her to bide her time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. Her next major resurgence took place in Avalon, her mystical stronghold, where she extended her influence to the ancient necropolis beneath Velletri, Italy, known as the City of the Dead. From this subterranean and otherworldly base of power, Morgan unleashed a devastating army of the undead, orchestrating necromantic attacks across Europe that threatened to destabilize the entire continent. The Avengers, recognizing the magnitude of the threat, joined forces with Euroforce, a European superhero team, to confront Morgan's relentless zombie onslaught. Despite their combined might, the heroes found themselves overwhelmed by the seemingly unstoppable horde under Morgan's command. Her mastery of Avalon's mystical energies made her dark sorcery nearly insurmountable, casting a shadow over the continent. In a pivotal turn of events, Sebastian Druid, a young sorcerer and member of the Secret Warriors, intervened in an attempt to counter Morgan's magic. Tragically, Druid was slain shortly after his arrival, but his death unknowingly became the key to unraveling Morgan's power. As a newly formed spirit within the City of the Dead, and through his connection to Avalon's mystical plane, Druid's ghost retained the unique ability to wield magic in ways that living sorcerers could not. He used this spectral position to disrupt Morgan's control over the undead, severing the mystical bonds that animated her army. Following her defeat at the hands of the Avengers in Euroforce, Morgan le Fay's thirst for vengeance remained as strong as ever. The loss of Avalon was merely a momentary halt to her ambitions. Her pursuit of dark magic, manipulation of mystical realms, and unrelenting vendetta against those who had opposed her continued. Morgan's machinations soon took her back to Otherworld. When the mutant nation of Krakoa inadvertently disrupted Avalon by opening a portal to it, the resulting disturbance unknowingly polluted the sacred waters of Avalon. This disturbance weakened Avalon's mystical integrity and allowed Morgan to see Krakoa as a direct threat to her control over the realm's magical forces. In response, she sought out the druids of Solar Blackwood, who were performing a powerful ritual to tap into the magic of Avalon. Morgan, ever the opportunist, interrupted their ritual and took control of their spellwork to increase her power. This act further tied her to the magic of Avalon, enabling her to manipulate and corrupt its energies. As Morgan grew stronger by harnessing the magic of Avalon, she turned her attention to Braddock, the reigning Captain Britain. Using her dark sorcery, she corrupted Brian, forcing him to act as her pawn and pitting him against his sister, Braddock. Their confrontation became a pivotal moment as Betsy struggled against her brother's newfound darkness while coming to terms with her own emerging destiny. Meanwhile, the Excalibur team attempted to respond to the crisis. In their effort to stabilize the situation, Rogue opened the Krakoan gate to Avalon, only to be ensnared by the enchanted bramble conjured by Morgan's magic. The corrupted energies overwhelmed Rogue, plunging her into a deep, magical sleep, leaving the team reeling as they faced the escalating threat of Morgan's forces. In response, Betsy claimed Brian's medallion, a symbol of his mantle, and transformed into the new Captain Britain. Now fully embracing her role as Captain Britain, she began assembling the Excalibur team, which included Gambit, Jubilee, Richter, and Apocalypse. Their mission was to protect Krakoa's interests and restore Avalon's balance, confronting Morgan's forces head-on. Meanwhile, Mariana Stern of the Druids of Solar Blackwood, driven by ambition and a desire for power, abandoned her brethren to align herself with the Coven of Kaba. Stern's defection provided the Coven with insider knowledge of Avalon's mystical workings, further bolstering their position as Morgan's allies in her crusade against Krakoa. With Rogue still in her enchanted sleep after being ensnared by the mystical bramble, the team transported her to the Braddock family's lighthouse in England. Upon their arrival, they were attacked by Selkie's mythical creatures tied to the lore of Avalon. During the ensuing confrontation, a new lighthouse emerged from the ground, with Rogue encased in a flower coffin at its peak, serving as its light. This mystical development deepened the team's resolve to uncover a way to awaken her and restore balance to the realm. Amidst the chaos, they encountered a group of green-hooded druids who offered their assistance. These druids, harboring a deep connection to Avalon's magical forces, provided guidance and insight, helping Excalibur navigate the complexities of the realm and the challenges they faced. Morgan le Fay, already enraged by the continued contamination of Avalon's sacred pool, harshly scolded her servant Mariana Stern for failing to rid the pool of the encroaching vines. She demanded to know why Stern had not yet delivered Apocalypse's head on a platter, questioning the competence of her allies and their ability to execute her commands. Her frustration only deepened as the magical corruption spread, threatening her grasp on Avalon's power. Morgan le Fay, desperate to maintain her grip on Avalon, declared a duel to the death for control of the kingdom. Braddock faced off against her corrupted brother, Brian, in a tense and emotionally charged battle. Despite the conflict's personal stakes, Betsy fought valiantly, defeating Brian and proving herself worthy of the Captain Britain mantle. With Morgan's plans unraveling, she was ultimately captured and imprisoned by the newly crowned king Jaime Braddock. Within the intricate power dynamics of Otherworld, Morgan le Fay's captivity became a symbol of shifting allegiances and unchecked ambition. After her defeat, Jaime Braddock, with his unpredictable and reality-warping abilities, held Morgan in a cruel state of mockery. Rather than outright eliminating her, he kept her bound, relishing in her humiliation and his perceived dominance over the once mighty sorceress. His actions, however, were not without consequence. As the tensions in Otherworld continued to simmer, Gambit stumbled upon Morgan's confined state and quickly realized the danger Jamie's arrogance posed. He warned Jamie of the peril in underestimating someone as cunning and relentless as Morgan, but his words fell on deaf ears. Jamie's disregard for the threat only emboldened those who sought to undermine his rule. The Coven of Kaba, ever loyal to their hatred of mutant kind, seized the opportunity. Through a dark and sacrilegious ritual tainted with mutant blood, they broke the chains of Morgan's imprisonment, freeing her to reclaim her place in the shifting sands of Otherworld's power struggle. In a trance-like state, Morgan, driven by the ritual's corrupted magic, made her way to the Braddock lighthouse. With her formidable powers, she overtook the structure, transforming it into a beacon of her dark influence. With her liberation, a new chapter of chaos was set to unfold, as Morgan le Fay would stop at nothing to exact her revenge. Freed from captivity, Morgan le Fay wasted no time reasserting her dominance. Seizing control of the Coven of Kaba, she bent their leader, Ruben Brescio, to her will. The Coven, steeped in hatred for mutant kind, became Morgan's willing instruments in her quest to reclaim Britain and purge the influence of Krakoa. As part of her plans, Morgan captured the mutant Micromax, imprisoning him within a mystical glass jar. With her dark sorcery, she sought to transform him into her own twisted version of Captain Britain, a figurehead to manipulate the people of Britain and rally them against the mutants. Under Morgan's direction, the Coven of Kaba executed her vision with unwavering loyalty, their actions pushing Britain toward a dangerous confrontation with Krakoa. At the heart of the Coven of Kaba's sanctum, Morgan le Fay continued her relentless campaign against Betsy Braddock and the Captain Britain Corps. With the imprisoned Micromax at her disposal, Morgan utilized a drop of his mutant blood to enact a powerful ritual over the sacred waters of Avalon. The spell was designed to locate every iteration of Betsy Braddock within the Captain Britain Corps across the multiverse. Her ultimate goal, to corrupt and enslave these alternate Betsies, turning them into agents of her will and weakening the Corps from within. Her plans to dismantle the Captain Britain Corps and corrupt its defenders intensified as she manipulated the Furies into creating diversions across the multiverse. Each attack was a calculated move to draw Betsy Braddock's attention, ensuring she remained distracted and unaware of Morgan's true intentions. Morgan le Fay, ever the master of manipulation, set her sights on Lizzie Braddock, an alternate version of Betsy Braddock from another timeline and a member of Strike. Seeking to fracture the unity of the Captain Britain Corps, Morgan sought to corrupt Lizzie, aiming to use her as a pawn to destabilize Betsy's mission and exploit her connection to the Corps Multiversal Foundation. By targeting Lizzie, Morgan intended to strike at the heart of the Braddock legacy, creating a deeply personal stake in her ongoing crusade against mutant kind. Manifesting as the goddess in triplicate, Morgan divided herself into three avatars: the Maiden Warrior, the Beautiful Sorceress, and the Wise Witch. This triune manifestation allowed her to battle Betsy, Rachel Summers, and Lizzie Braddock simultaneously, using both might and magic to overwhelm her enemies. Despite her formidable power, the tide turned with the intervention of Captain Carter, who joined the fray and shifted the balance in favor of the defenders. Unwilling to concede, Morgan enacted a cunning stratagem. At Strike's medical facility, she disguised herself as Betsy and sought to deceive and manipulate Captain Carter. Using her dark sorcery, Morgan attempted to claim the mantle of Captain Britain for herself through a sinister ritual designed to take control of Carter's body and soul. However, Betsy and Captain Carter clashed in a fierce battle, with Betsy ultimately besting Carter and breaking Morgan's control over her. Morgan's adaptability shone in the aftermath of her defeat. She pivoted her strategy, turning to the Furies' formidable beings of war and promoting them as the Furious Captain Britain Corps. With this new force at her command, Morgan vowed to fulfill her promise of war, setting the stage for a cataclysmic conflict that would test the very fabric of Avalon and the multiverse. One of the Furies, displaying an eerie sense of duty, made a chilling proclamation to the people of the United Kingdom. While the current Captain Britain remains alive, I cannot serve you to the best of my abilities, but no harm will come to you. This declaration set the stage for a brutal confrontation as one of the Furies engaged Brian Braddock in a deadly battle. Under Megan's watchful gaze, Brian was struck down, seemingly meeting his end. Satisfied, the Fury departed, having fulfilled his grim mission. However, the spectacle was nothing more than a cunning illusion, a ruse orchestrated by Betsy to mislead her enemies and protect her brother. Morgan le Fay turned her attention to her unwilling allies, Ruben Bresson and the Furies, as her plans faced an unexpected setback. Contemplating the use of Ruben as a sacrifice to further her dark ambitions, Morgan dismissed the idea, begrudgingly constrained by his humanity. With mounting frustration, she chastised both Ruben and the Furies, accusing them of being no better than one another when her scrying revealed the startling truth: Brian Braddock, presumed dead, was still alive. Seizing the moment, Morgan conjured a vision of the Britain she desired, a realm radiating her ideal of perfection and order, where her rule was absolute. and the land was shaped by her magical influence. As the threat she posed loomed larger, she traveled to Latveria, unlikely to forge a dangerous alliance with none other than Dr. Doom. This unholy partnership marked a significant escalation in Morgan's ambitions, and she now had the means to expand her reach even further. At the same time, Betsy Braddock, sensing the growing danger, sought out Tony Stark for aid. The two shared a tense yet strategic conversation, with a fencing match serving as a prelude to the serious business at hand. Realizing the scale of the threat Morgan and Doom posed, Betsy enlisted Stark's expertise to counter the looming peril. The alliance of minds between Stark and Braddock underscored the gravity of the situation, as they began formulating a plan to confront Morgan's increasing power. Meanwhile, the Furies, whose primary command is to hunt superpowered beings, responded immediately when detecting Brian Braddock, their directives momentarily overriding Morgan le Fay's authority. In the ensuing clash, Betsy and the Avengers worked in unison, exploiting the Furies' vulnerabilities. Their combined strength overwhelmed the mechanical juggernaut, tearing it limb from limb. However, the threat was not entirely neutralized until Jamie Braddock intervened. Wielding his reality warping powers, Jamie ensnared the Shattered Fury in a pocket dimension, neutralizing its immediate threat. But Jamie, as ever, had another trick up his sleeve. Producing a miniature version of Dr. Doom's castle, he expanded it to full size in a dramatic flourish. From its grandeurs emerged Morgan le Fay and Doom himself, their partnership and romantic connection rekindled. Doom, ever the calculating force, made his stance clear. While he claimed no personal quarrel with Betsy, he issued a dire warning. Any move against Morgan would be met with the full might of Latveria. As their combined presence loomed, the stakes for the Braddocks and for Britain itself rose to a dangerous new height. Meanwhile, the Braddock family convened to deliberate over the impending crisis. The discussions brought to light the depth of Morgan's schemes and the immediate threat facing Britain. With their shared resolve, the family strengthened their bond and readied themselves to stand united against Morgan le Fay's machinations. Jamie's actions, however, added complexity to the situation. Owing a debt to Morgan, Jamie's maneuver brought Castle Doom to Britain, setting the stage for an alliance between Morgan and Doom. Within the surreal confines of Jamie Braddock's pocket prison, Fury 238 finally confronted its long-standing adversary, Brian Braddock, the former Captain Britain. Their clash was nothing short of legendary, with Brian channeling every ounce of his strength and skill to bring Fury 238 to its knees. Just as Brian prepared to deliver the final, decisive blow, he was interrupted by an unexpected presence, Rachel Summers. Rachel, wielding her immense psychic power, stepped in to halt Brian's actions. With calm but firm resolve, she implored him to reconsider, sensing a greater purpose for Fury 238 beyond their conflict. Defying expectations, Rachel convinced Brian to let Fury 238 live. Brian agreed, but would be right beside Rachel. Betsy Braddock, with the aid of Strike, launched a daring infiltration into Morgan le Fay's castle. Moving with precision and purpose, the team dismantled Morgan's lackeys with ease, carving a path deeper into the fortress. However, Betsy's overconfidence proved to be her undoing. Unbeknownst to her, some of Morgan's underlings carried enchanted charms specifically designed to nullify Captain Britain's powers. Stripped of her psychic edge, Betsy found herself vulnerable. Morgan seized the moment to taunt her adversary. With calculated malice, she reminded Betsy that her stubbornness and personal vendetta had brought war to Avalon, endangering the very people she swore to protect. The words cut deep, forcing Betsy to question the cost of her actions as Morgan's grip on the situation tightened. Meanwhile, Brian Braddock, Rachel Summers, and Megan traveled to the Everforge, seeking an alliance with its enigmatic Forge Master. They brought with them the broken remains of Fury 238, offering it as a gesture of goodwill. Rachel, ever perceptive, addressed the Forge Master directly, remarking that the war they had been promised might not come to fruition. However, she hinted at an alternative, a grand and superpowered prize worthy of their skills. The promise of such a challenge set events in motion. Doombots clashed with the Furies in a ferocious battle that tore across Avalon, a symphony of metal and magic, as the forces of destruction waged war. Amidst the chaos, Captain Britain fought to free herself from her bindings. Confronting Morgan directly, Betsy challenged her, asking if she truly sought to be connected to the land of Britain in a meaningful way. With Excalibur in hand, Betsy struck not just at Morgan's defenses, but at the shadows of hatred and conquest that had consumed her for centuries. The enchanted blade pierced through the darkness surrounding Morgan's heart, unleashing a wave of clarity and connection. For the first time in ages, Morgan felt the unshakable bond of Britain's soul, the resilience of its people, the history of its land coursing through her. This moment of purification marked a dramatic transformation. The power of Excalibur, tied to the very essence of Britain, shifted Morgan's perspective entirely. The dark sorceress, long consumed by ambition and conquest, now stood reconnected to the land she had sought to dominate. This revelation shocked all who witnessed it, none more than Betsy herself. In the aftermath of her transformation, Morgan's dark past dissolved into the ether. The call of the land and its people resonated within her, leaving an open question as to her role in the battles ahead. With the final confrontation against the forces of chaos looming, Morgan's redemption offered both hope and uncertainty, a wildcard that could redefine the fate of Avalon, Britain, and the multiverse itself. Morgan le Fay stands as a testament to the enduring allure and peril of power in the Marvel Universe. From her origins in Arthurian legend to her relentless pursuit of dominion over Avalon and beyond, Morgan's story weaves together themes of ambition, transformation, and the eternal struggle between light and shadow. Her mastery of dark sorcery, strategic cunning, and unwavering connection to Britain's mystical essence have solidified her as one of Marvel's most complex and captivating sorceresses. As both a villain and, at times, an unexpected ally, Morgan le Fay's journey reflects the duality of her nature, a figure bound by her past yet capable of redefining her future. Whether as a conqueror, a rival, or a reluctant savior, Morgan le Fay's influence on the Marvel Universe remains as potent as the magic she wields. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the magical and tumultuous life of Morgan le Fay. Her story reminds us of the rich tapestry of myth and magic that makes Marvel so unforgettable. If you enjoyed exploring her history, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay updated on more Marvel deep dives. Share your thoughts on Morgan le Fay in the comments below, or tell us which Marvel character or artifact you'd like us to explore next. Until next time.